Live from Surrey Heath, the Kipper Street.
Oh, I say, you've been misled. You've been had. You've been took.
Someone's knocking at the door. Somebody's ringing the bell. Someone's knocking at the door. Somebody's ringing the bell.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the Kipper Stream. My name is Damien Heads, aka the Young PJW, and today we have a very special guest with us. We have someone just from right up the road. It's a Northerner. How do you do?
Hey, I'm good. Thanks. Yourself?
Good, yeah. Do you want to introduce yourself and tell us what you're about?
Well, I'm one of the branch officers for UKIP Doncaster, and we're basically rebuilding a lot of the branches going really well, and a lot of the other northern branches are growing and reforming. So, it's UKIP's going fairly well up in my region, in my area.
Well, I've had a few comments about stuff we've done in the past, and one thing that we've been told is we're a bit southern-centric. And also, I got another comment here from a couple of weeks ago from Peter McDonald, said, another bunch of spoiled middle-class young people, so disappointed. So, I thought we'd buck the trends and get a bloke from Doncaster.
Yeah, I mean, there's no difference really in terms of people, in terms of wealth. It's more to do with ideas. Ideas matter a lot more than where you're from and where you grew up. What you think is a lot more important.
But do you not think that coming from like a working class background in particular, that maybe because you've been through a few more knocks and things like that, that maybe you gain a bit more of a perspective? Because I tend to feel like that.
Yeah, I mean, maybe. You don't know any different. Wherever your background is, you only know what you know. You only know what you experience. So, one man's hard journey is another man's easy walk. Okay.
So tell us a bit about Doncaster then. What's interesting about Doncaster?
Well, it's a decent town. There's a lot of problems with drugs, particularly spice. That is sort of the big problem at the minute. You go into the town centre and there are spice heads all over, and these people are like zombies. It's pretty bad with the drugs, but. The town itself is a nice town. There's quite a few nice things here. There's a lot of history to the town. It's a really old town. It's been around for a long time. It's got a market centre which has just been rebuilt and been sort of renovated and rejuvenated, which is good. And there's been a lot of investment in the French Gate, which is a big shopping centre. It's a nice area. There's some areas nicer than others. It does have some problems, but by and large, it's not a terrible place to live. It's quite a nice place to live. I live in an area sort of just outside of the main town centre area, and away quite a few miles out. So it's quite nice and quiet where I live anyway. That's where Doncaster's at really.
So do you think there's a bit of a difference in terms of the way the people are down south as opposed to up north? When you
well, I lived down south for a while. I lived down south for a few years in Worthing, which is pretty much as south as it gets.
Yeah, right by the coast, isn't it?
Yeah, right by the coast. I've lived down south for a while, and there is a marked difference. And Northerners. We are much more friendly than Southerners. It's a well-known fact, and obviously Yorkshire is in the north, and God's own county is the best place in England. Everybody knows that. That's another well-known fact. There is a difference, but I think only marginally, and I think there's a lot of UKIP infrastructure in the south, and I do see that not as a problem, but as something that we need to address. And I do feel like there should be a natural pivot north for UKIP. It makes the most sense when if you consider the sort of demographic that you want to pick up on, the ex-Labour heartlands are really the areas that UKIP should be swinging towards and just really soaking up now. The sort of rank and file old ex-Labour tribal voters are really starting to switch off, and those are the people that you can just soak up.
Comrade Corbyn has right put them off, I guess.
Yeah, really have.
Yeah, I was going to ask, like, what's your take on the general? I mean, you've talked about it a little bit there, but if you could expand a little bit on what you feel the old school Labour voter feels in terms of how things are going within the Labour Party and how they behave in Parliament.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think people like Corbyn. It's odd because if you hear people, they just say, "Oh, I don't like Corbyn." Especially old people, I don't like that Corbyn. I just don't like him, and it's because they don't really know why. But I think deep down they know that he's just, he is a Marxist, and McDonnell is a Marxist, and they do have dangerous ideologies. I mean, McDonnell talks about hounding Tories off the streets and living in a place like that, which is quite worrying. Tories aren't particularly right wing nowadays anyway. I mean, the average Tory is just Labour light. So I think there's a lot of deep mistrust towards Corbyn, and just the general shenanigans, the voting on tag, these sorts of people, representing the party, the general anti-Semitism, the problems there. These are all issues that the old school Labour voters are not happy with, and they won't keep voting Labour, even given as tribal as some of them are, and as long as they voted Labour as they have done, they'll still switch off, and they are switching off. So,
has Doncaster traditionally been a Labour town?
Yeah, Doncaster's an old Labour ward, but it was one of I think it was the 5th highest Leave constituency on the vote. So it's a significant Leave. I think it was 60% Leave. So a strong Leave town, and always been the Labour heartland. So it's a sort of place that UKIP really can pick up once the Brexit party disappear.
So you've noticed, friends of friends and people like that, saying, "I've had enough of this. I'm going to switch."
Yeah. Just generally, just people, and it's not just it's not just Brexit. It's everything else. It's the general, the sort of general malaise, the terrible news. The North has a lot of problems anyway. A lot of the media is Southern centric. The BBC are great for saying, look at the great sunny day we're having, and it's absolutely pouring it down in Yorkshire, and it's like, no, like, we are not having a sunny day. You are having a sunny day. We are having rain. But it's just the London centric approach, and even that, which is just a small example, just shows it a disconnect with their
weather bias.
Yeah, weather bias.
Oh yeah. Oh, we see it all the time, don't we? When the BBC usually do their little articles or whatever, and they talk about, what is it to be British? What is it to be British? Or like they have their BBC shows. It's always an image of London in the background. It's always talking, and they go on the streets and it's always some London street. It's very rarely anywhere else.
Place in the whole of Britain.
Yeah, it's like when people. I never used to believe it before, but when people say like, the Westminster bubble or the London bubble and that, I never used to really believe it until I actually started paying attention to it, and it really is a bubble, like within, was it the M25? I think it's the one that goes around London.
Yeah,
and it's just it really is. That's all they care about, is with whatever is within that ring, and anything outside of it, not a concern to them. Just completely oblivious to it.
And what about this whole myth about the white van man of the north? Is this just a myth, or is this actually true? Is it just filled with blokes with white vans?
Well, I do drive a white van.
There you go.
But it is a branded van, so it's not a white van. It is a company branded van. So
it's still white underneath, though. You want a white van man.
Still white
man. So with this working class vote, I think a lot of them, especially in the north, are probably going to the Brexit Party at this minute. I think it's fair to say. Would you say that's fairly true?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of my friends who were UKIP voters are now, they're on the Farage train, and they'll vote Brexit Party and continue to vote that way.
Oh, for any viewers that are watching, just to let you know, Michael's mum's just walked in, and I think
apologies for that. I was not expecting that.
Anyway, well, we so that a lot of them are going to the Brexit Party at the moment.
Yeah,
Farage is hot topic.
Yeah, Farage is Mr. Brexit, and the argument. The argument over Brexit does lie with Farage. A lot of people, I mean, even with a lot of people, they still think that Farage is part of UKIP. Like the average man on the street sometimes, who really doesn't watch the news, doesn't really care, just goes to work, feeds his kids, doesn't really bother, just goes to the ballot box. A lot of people are like, oh yeah, I'll vote for you, I love Farage. And you're like, no, but Farage isn't, and it's quite odd. So a lot of people will go Brexit Party, a lot of people will stay UKIP, but I think, there are other things that UKIP are willing to talk about that the other parties won't. The Brexit Party won't. They won't talk about freedom of speech, which is a big problem facing a lot of people. So
yeah,
as long as UKIP are still willing to talk about these issues, I think we will always have relevance. And as the Brexit Party disappears, the people that just don't want to vote Lib Lab Con will naturally come and find a home at UKIP.
Yeah. And I'm glad you brought it up, because a lot of people associate the poor performance that UKIP did during the local, to a degree, the local and the Euro election, down to the antics of Batten and choices he made by, someone's quote unquote aligning himself with Tommy Robinson and backing YouTubers and they feel that is the fall or what caused the issues for UKIP. But for me, and Damien's pointed this out numerous times on other streams, there is very much about Mr. Brexit, Nigel Farage, and the people will follow him because they have faith in him, they have trust in him, and they believe that he will deliver. So they will go wherever he goes, I think putting all the blame on Batten for the issues the UKIP have had is very unfair. And as you pointed out, when Brexit is done, and I don't think Farage really has any interest in staying in politics. He really doesn't. He's shown that when he left UKIP almost immediately after referendum was won. Well, not left, but he left being in charge and went to LBC. Excuse me. And yeah, he just wants to get into media. He wants to do his own career, and all the power to him. But UKIP will still be here. We'll still be, fighting for free speech, fighting for what's important. And when Brexit's all said and done, and the Brexit Party more than likely will just kind of fall into irrelevancy, UKIP will still be here, and we'll still be pushing forward.
But the thing is, will they disappear, the Brexit Party, or are they just going to keep on going in some sort of form? And if so, what form will that take? Because I have heard rumours that they may go and be a sort of libertarian party. I've
heard the same rumours. I think, because like I said, I don't think Farage will stick around. I think will likely be happening now, because I think this is why Turning Point UK have kind of aligned themselves with the Brexit Party quite well. I think what will probably happen is, like I say, once Brexit's done, Farage will go back to his media career, and then the Brexit Party will try to continue as a proper party. But I think there are so many people that join the Brexit Party as a momentum that don't actually like each other all that much. They're just there for one single purpose. And once that purpose has been done, they're all going to start fighting each other, and they're all going to be wanting different things out of it. And I think the Brexit Party will likely just linger on a little bit and if I'm being perfectly honest, it would probably struggle the same as UKIP did after referendum, because UKIP for a time wasn't sure what to do with itself after referendum was won. We thought the war was over. And I think the Brexit Party will likely face the same issue. But the thing is, UKIP knows where to go forward. We know what battles need to be fought. And we're only now seeing the Brexit Party starting to copy policies and things that we're working on. They've already said, I think Alice Grant, in our interview with her, she said that the likely outcome or the likely manifesto they will come out with will be a copy of the 2015 UKIP manifesto. So I think they're just going to copy and paste what UKIP is, and they're going to just try and push with that. But I think they're going to struggle because a lot of people are going to see through what the Brexit Party is, which is Tory light, let's be honest, and they'll just come back to UKIP because they know that UKIP is true, full with their principles, through and through.
But what are they going to call themselves once Brexit is done?
We did it party.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think the only thing that the Brexit Party could do is run on sort of a pro-democracy ticket. Something they've talked about before. So I imagine sort of abolishing the House of Lords, initiating proportional representation voting systems instead of first past the post, or at least maybe advocating for a referendum on those, seeing as referendums are so popular at the moment. So that's a sort of ticket that could run on a pro-democracy. But other than that, I think they'll struggle to agree any sort of fiscal policy, given the left and right dichotomy within the party. But I don't think you can get Claire Fox and Rees-Mogg and Widdicombe to agree on policy. Really, anything outside of vague, democratic principle policies.
I think when the Brexit Party reaches that conclusion, I think a lot of them honestly will just go back to the Tory Party and then all go back to UKIP. It's just a natural home. Like the Brexit Party is just a movement. It's pretty much a protest party because the Westminster establishment just won't get the job done and they just won't do it. So that's essentially what the Brexit Party all is. It's just a protest party. It's not anything more than that. Whereas UKIP has always been a principled party. And that we have the motivation and the reasons to keep on going, whereas they just don't. So once Brexit's done, I think they'll just linger on, struggle, and eventually just disintegrate. I mean, it'll be a much slower process of what happened to the Cucks, and that because they joined together as essentially a protest group because they were sick of their own parties. But the problem is that they had nobody behind them because they were on the wrong side of history. So they disintegrated really quickly. Because I think if they are still around, they're very tiny and pretty much insignificant. And I think we'll see the same thing with the Brexit Party. It'll just be a much slower process, honestly.
Yeah, because like the Cucks, they don't have infrastructure, do they? Whilst
Nope.
Parties like UKIP and the Lib Dems, etc., we already have an infrastructure in place of branches, networks, and stuff like that. So
yeah,
it'd be interesting to see if they have the testicular fortitude. I've always wanted to use that.
I mean, their party is basically a house of cards because it's with UKIP, well, with any party really. You'd have to do it from the ground up. You have to do the foundation, and you have to put the walls in, and then you put the second floor in, and also things, and then you have a house. But with the Brexit Party, it's basically just went for the walls, and that's it. They didn't put anything on the inside. It's just walls. It's like on the inside, it's just not a real party.
Yeah, and I'm actually part of a local chat group of my area, and anyone who's involved in politics should get involved in these local chat groups. And there was a guy in the Brexit Party in that branch who tried to become a parliamentary candidate, I think, for them. And he was like quite a successful software developer, but got denied. And he basically alluded to the fact that these people are basically parachuting people into positions. It's not like a ground up movement. It's top down.
Yeah, that's why I think their whole purpose, and they've done a very good job. I'll give them credit, but essentially, like I said, they've built this very impressive house, so to speak, and it's there to just do the job, but it's not there to last. Like that's the way. It's like a very quickly constructed barn. If you've ever seen that Family Guy sketch of Peter Griffin versus the Amish, and that he's trying to destroy their barn, they just keep rebuilding it, and that
it's like a large arch that's at Farage's cornerstone. As soon as you remove Farage, the whole thing just falls down.
Yes. That is perfect. Yeah, it's perfect analogy. Yeah, I think that pretty much covers the Brexit Party perfectly. Like once their purpose is done, they will fall apart. Like they just don't have the longevity in them.
The only way it could carry on for me in long term is if Farage did stay in that post for a long time and they really built it from him. Do you guys
it's possible?
You don't see him. Do you see him lasting long in that position, or do you think he'll bugger off like he did to UKIP?
I highly doubt he'll come back to UKIP. I think there are people still in UKIP that do.
No, not go to UKIP. I was saying, do you think he'll bugger off from the Brexit Party like he did with UKIP?
Oh, sorry. I think that's the likely outcome. I think he'll probably just want to go back to LBC and just like enjoy doing that because he does a very good job on LBC. I do like listening to him. In terms of him staying on in the party, I think it'll probably. It's possible, but I don't think he really wants that. I just haven't seen any inclination that that's what he wants. He just wants to get the job done and then go do his own personal thing. That's what I expect from him.
I think if he can keep holding rallies and keep packing halls and keep subscribers and no real oversight from any sort of democratic processes within the Brexit subscribers, then I think he'll be quite happy to keep soaking up the money and travelling around and getting the applause. You know, I think why not? He'll love it. You know, he'll absolutely
feed into his ego, so I wouldn't put it past them.
Yeah.
So you think he could sit in the leadership role quite happily and not do much, but take the glory and stuff like that?
Yeah. I mean, why not?
Yeah, it's definitely possible. I think it's more on the slim end of it happening, but I think it's definitely something to consider.
Well, there's one thing I'd like to thank Farage for with UKIP, and that's that he's going to soak up all the sort of Tory light peoples from UKIP, because there has been this thing with UKIP where we have been sort of a refugee house for Tories, and I'd quite like to move away from that now, because I disagree with Tories on so many things, especially when it comes to things like economics. I believe in state intervention, things like, nationalising the trains and giving money to British Steel. So maybe that will make us stronger in the future. Possibility.
Maybe. I mean, I'm not opposed to welcoming people in from different different parties, because my branch chairman, he's formerly of the Liberal Democrats, and he was the mayor for the town next to the one I work in, and he's a fantastic branch chairman, and he's absolutely cracking. He came from the Liberal Democrats, so I'm not opposed to other people join from other parties, but I get what you mean. I
guess what I mean is, instead of having so many UKIP people from the Tories, maybe have more from a mix of people, so we're not so influenced.
Oh, I see what you mean.
So we're not so influenced by ex-Tories, if you get what I mean.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. In that case, I don't know if we. Oh, now we're getting onto border controls and managing numbers. I don't know if it's certainly something to think about. I mean, is it something? Can we manage that? Can we manage the amount of Tories that would come in, as opposed to other political positions?
Well, by the virtue of the Brexit Party existing, I think we're going to have sort of more of a mix rather than mostly Tories, because the Tories love the Brexit Party, in my opinion.
We have a mix in our local branch. There's ex-lifelong Labour and ex-lifelong Conservative members, so and both just disillusioned with our parties, and both essentially working class men. Even one being a Tory and one being Labour, both working men, worked all their lives, built what they had. So I think there's a natural. I mean, it sounds cliche, but a natural sort of centre ground for a sort of common sense party. That isn't sort of far left and isn't as harsh on certain things as the Conservatives. I think there's a space there, and a lot of the things that UKIP talk about do just resonate with the normal person. Like political correctness is a big problem. A lot of people, if you just mention political correctness to anybody, the answer is, "Oh, it's crazy. You can't say anything now." And that's the general feeling that everybody has, and that's something that's right just to tap into. And talking about free speech, who can oppose free speech? It's a great talking point.
Well, communists apparently they oppose free speech.
Antifa.
Yeah. Oh God. Yeah. Did you want to get onto the whole Johnny No situation that went down in Portland? Or did you want
Johnny
to?
No situation. Oh, this is the guy who got attacked by Antifa.
Yeah, in Portland in the US.
Yeah, I haven't really read much about that. I heard what Gavin McInnes said about it briefly. Go on, give me the lowdown.
All right, I'll do my best. I basically watched it from what was it, Tim Pool and Sargon's video, and it's pretty brutal. Like he was just going around trying to film stuff, and the clip that I saw of him, I think it was halfway through getting essentially.
Where was this?
In Portland. In the
No,
US.
but what was the event? What was the circumstance?
He was just documenting an Antifa march. That's all it was. You know,
Oh,
just typical Antifa march. They're all the same. You know, fuck everybody, kill the pigs, all that sort of thing. And yeah, he was just documenting it because he's an independent journalist. I don't believe he's part of any organization, to my knowledge. I could be wrong on that. And yeah, the clip shows of him just covered in milkshake, which rumor has it had quick drying cement in it, which I don't know if that's true or not. It's still a bit speculation. But yeah, he was there. He'd been
it caused him a brain bleed, didn't it? So there's a good chance
it caused him a hemorrhage, not enough to kill him, but serious. I mean, a hemorrhage. I mean, that's pretty bloody serious.
I mean, unless it was a frozen milkshake, but even then, I'm not so sure.
He certainly got hit with something because he had a massive cut under his eye. And so somebody must have whacked him in the face with something. But yeah, he was just absolutely like beaten in that. And there was another clip. I can't remember if it was from the same event or a different one, where an old man, like somewhere, a guy in his like 80s or something, and he was just covered in blood, just from head to toe. And it was there was a clip of it, just like a whole bunch of Antifa guys all dressed up, clad up, and they're just beating this old chap relentlessly. And if you just watched like the content, like it's seriously like I'm trying to explain it, but there's still so much in those videos, so like, you need to go see it for yourself. So I do recommend going to Sargon of Akkad's channel or Tim Pool's and watching it for yourself. But there's plenty of evidence out there. But it's just such horrifying stuff to watch, and I was just sat there thinking, like, it's getting to such a point because they are a domestic terrorist group. Like they were classed as that by Trump and the FBI. Hello, person. And I'm just thinking, like, if it keeps going and the police forces don't do anything, because the mayor of Portland specifically had the police like in positions where they would just not be around for those incidences. He just kept them out of the way so that stuff could happen. And I'm just sat there thinking, like, eventually what's going to happen is some right wings are going to turn up in a pickup truck with AR-15s or whatever, and they're just going to mow them down because the police aren't going to do it. Clearly aren't doing anything. The state clearly isn't doing enough. That's just going to be the logical conclusion if nothing happens. You know, you push and you push and you push, and people are eventually just going to push back. It's quite frightening stuff.
And Ted Cruz has called for a federal investigation.
Oh yeah.
So something might happen.
Yeah.
Let me introduce our latest guest. That is Mr. Lloyd Hamilton. How you doing, Lloyd?
I'm keeping good. How are you doing?
This guy is so northern. He's actually from Scotland. So
it's when you guys mentioned the North. There's nothing can ever compare to the North, which then is a whole other kind of level of North for us. Because when we talk about the North, we're talking some funny people.
Yeah, we put a wall there, Hadrian's Wall, and you're even more north than that. So,
but walls don't work. Ladders exist. Duh.
So what's the perspective from Scotland? I'll tell you what, I've been speaking to some Scottish people in UKIP, and I thought,
do you mean Kyle?
Well, and a couple others actually, but yeah, like I expected, you know, if you're in UKIP, like you're going to be pretty much the same as us, but I feel like you guys, you sort of have a slightly different way of thinking, and you know, you're not hot on Gerard. Are you hot on Gerard Batten?
Oh, nuance. To be honest, this whole running for party leadership thing is gone right over my bloody head, because it's seen the positives and negatives of both. I don't want to be a proper centrist and all that, because centrism's so cool, but Do you know what? I'm more Ben Walker, and it just hurts to say that because it's becoming.
I
like
thought
proper
so.
meme just now.
There's something about the Scots. You're not quite as hardcore nationalist as us, and that's disappointing.
For obvious reasons, though. I'm still a true patriotic Brit, but still, yeah, Walker's a superior candidate in this. But in saying that, there's positive and negative to both sides of things, which is the centrist side of the way of thinking. But I hate it. Oh, there goes my fucking phone. Oh,
well, maybe it's something to do with what we talked about on the Sargon stream, where it's the Celtic thing, something to do with Celts.
There's just an inbred hate for the English. As much as we are British, we just hate the English.
You want to speak a bit closer to your phone, because at least we get.
I'm using AirPods. It's not that.
Oh, okay.
I can be all across the room, and I'm still. It's fucking quite my phone's fell down. No, because I can't proper scream because I'm in a hotel just now, so I can't
Why are you in hotels, by the way?
I'm not. Well, I like to travel a lot. Not that I'm a jippo or anything. I've got family down in London, but this time I'm in a conference. I'm at. How do you pronounce this place? Fucking. Why Boston? We're Boston or fucking we're Boston or why Boston? Something like WYBOSTON. How the fuck you just call it? Oh Christ! Sorry for swearing again.
Literally never heard of it. Literally never heard of that in my life.
Well, it's beginning to sound like YI has a Boston branch, and I'm just like, what?
St Neots, fucking outside London, some pish like that. I don't know. I don't know England. England's well, no offence. The only place I've ever enjoyed in England was Manchester, and even then.
What's shite about England?
It's English. English. I know.
Well, at least we don't fucking fry Mars bars,
at least we're not like the Welsh, at least you can actually pronounce words, in England. Whereas you go to Wales, it's like just somebody threw the alphabet at a wall, and then you get the Welsh language.
I mean, we did oppress the Scots for a long time. The English, we oppressed you guys so bad. We killed you in so many wars. I mean, do you
know why the sheep have the repertoire of being sheep shaggers? Do you know how that story came about?
Go on.
It was because basically it was the death penalty if you were caught stealing sheep, but it was only imprisonment if you were caught shagging sheep. So if they were trying to steal sheep, they just go, "Oh no, okay, we're just shagging them, eh?" and then they go, "All right, prison for you, no death sentence." So that's how they got off with it. Was they just said they were shagging sheep, and that's how it just spread throughout the land. So there you go. We've got history for you.
I do love a good origin story.
Don't say we never keep anything on the Kipper stream.
You only get it if you read British history manga instead of watching the
anime. More you know.
So, did anyone read this Kipper Central article where they interviewed Morrissey?
Yeah.
Fan of Morrissey?
Give or take as an artist, to be honest, but I do quite like his stance. I like that he doubled down. He was fairly bold, and I think that's what we need is a lot more people in the public eye to sort of put their head up above the parapet and be willing to say something that doesn't gel with the mainstream conscious and the push force narrative from the media. And really, it will start to wake people up, and it will start to make people just stop and think. Anybody that does that, like you've got the comments from John Cleese recently. So that there are celebrities and people in the mainstream who do think differently and do all different opinions, and they are willing to at least speak up. And I think more people that do that, the better it is for everybody.
It does make me wonder just how many celebrities are actually right wingers or like just centrists.
Oh, I'm sure there's plenty. They just keep it quiet.
Terrified to come out and say it.
Yeah, I think it'd be the smarter move as a celebrity. I mean, the whole get woke, go broke kind of thing. As a celebrity, I think the smarter move is to just remove yourself from politics, because I think even left or right wing, like, I mean, if you're looking at it from a solely economical point of view, Morrissey's career has been affected coming out as right wing. So I mean, he would have been better staying quiet. I mean, even if he'd have been left wing, he would have lost right wing listeners. So I think as a celebrity, to come out anything political is damaging to your career, no matter what way you swing. Obviously, certain, like, say, I don't know, like Madonna.
Well, it hasn't harmed Storm.
Well, yeah. But if Madonna came out as right wing, she'd lose the majority of her following. So I think it's a very dependent on who you are. But I think no matter who you kind of come out as, But yeah, Stormzy, but it's kind of obvious why Stormzy didn't lose much. I mean, the thing that I don't quite understand was, did you see in his performance he wore a stab-proof vest given to him by Banksy with a Union Jack hastily painted on it? What statement was that trying to make? Like, I don't quite like. I understand Banksy's supposed to be a deep intellectual, but where was the depth?
I can explain that. It's basically he's basically playing into his own identity. Because let's face it, if he's happy to be introduced and supported by likes of Corbyn, and clearly he's enjoying the leftist privilege and that, so he's gonna play into identity politics. And the best way for him to do that is be like, look, I'm black, I'm from London, I have to be concerned about being stabbed. And that's enough. That's enough to play into his identity.
What is to be proud of being a stabbing victim, or not being a stab? Like, where is the pride of being? Yes, I can get stabbed. I don't understand. That's what I'm getting. Where is he? So are you just taking your analysis there? You're saying that Stormzy is proud that he, as a youth, could possibly. Well, no, Stormzy was stabbed. So he's.
Oh, he's gone.
We lost him.
I thought the whole Stormzy wearing a vest thing was actually saying, guys, stop the stabbing. I thought that was the message, but
he could just come out with a t-shirt and say, "Don't stab me." That would make so much more sense. Just say, "I'm still human. Don't stab me, please."
They were chanting the. I mean, it was political because it wasn't just don't stab, because don't stab is
totally.
We can all get on board. Don't stab, we can all agree on that. That's pretty obvious. But I mean, I think
not unless you're a serial stabber.
I think during the performance he said something about Chuck Norris, F Boris, so this and he's he's known as a Corbyn fan. He's wore JC for PM. T-shirts and stuff. So the guy's obviously got a political slant, but all power to him if he's got a platform and that's the message he wants. Then
not really, because stabbing was at an all-time low under Boris Johnson, whilst it's at an all-time high under Sadiq Khan. So he's not really living up to his message, really, is he?
We must enforce diversity.
More diversity, more stabbings, please, so everyone is equally stabbed. A man shouldn't be stabbed twice.
That is peak London. Yeah, peak London society. Everybody gets stabbed equally, do it the same amount.
And we all live in happiness.
As we all slowly die.
What Londoners should have is, they should have like a sacrificial lamb that just once a month you just throw it into the East End to get stabbed by as many youths as possible. So you don't have to stab a human being. Kind of like a Viking ritual, where they start putting
that sounds messed up, but I would totally expect to see that just walking down any street in the Middle East, honestly. Like, I would not be surprised. Like, I'll be walking around a corner and that just happens. I'm just like, oh, okay, that's the Middle East for you.
Anyway, back to Morrissey.
London, Middle East.
Well, to be fair, Glasgow is pretty much like the Middle East, so... Glasgow on a Saturday night.
That's what we've done with Morrissey, removing the music from the person. If you're to remove the musician from the politics, Stormzy is a good musician, whereas Morrissey is a bad musician with good politics. That's the duality.
So you prefer Stormzy to Morrissey?
Yes.
Well, do you like it when he does all that? What are you talking about, bruv? What are you getting? Yeah, is that your kind of talk? You like that?
I mean, there's something you can just, have a couple of Stella Twa with the lads and put in a bit of Stormzy and pop your head about. Go brap brap.
Hate that shit.
It's a good old laugh.
I think we need to rebuild that Hadrian's Wall.
I think we just need to. We need to have a London Fire 2.0. Except this time nobody stops the fire; it just lets it continue.
Why don't we send all the stabbers to Scotland? They love a bit of stabbing up there, anyway.
Well, yeah, but we've got contained stabbing. We've got stabbing areas. You know what I mean? Like, there's a kids stabbing area, the adult stabbing area.
We've got safe stab spaces.
Staying in designated stab zones. Exactly, for safe stab spaces. Like, there is definitely certain ends of Glasgow you can go to, and you will probably get stabbed, especially if you're English. Damien, you're prime for it. Just look at your pretty face. You're.
I've actually been to Glasgow before, but
those like the main. Yeah, but you've probably been to like the main bit of Glasgow where you wouldn't get stabbed if you go into the rough.
well, I went to see Rangers, so I was probably safe.
Easterhouse. If you travel to Easterhouse, Ibrox, yeah, that's you'll be with the Unionists then. So
let's be honest.
Wait, is the Rangers stadium like on the opposite side of Glasgow to Celtic or something? Is that how it works?
No, they're very close to each other actually. Well, not too close. They're about 20 minutes apart, so they're not exact opposites, but they're close enough. You know what I mean?
Oh, okay. So you must get a lot of fights.
Is religion. Yeah, I mean, it's mainly when it's an old firm game, like, which is Rangers versus Celtic, kind of the Protestant versus Catholic. That's the kind of.
I remember Noel Gallagher saying
clashes, but then the police tried to do their best to keep them separate.
I remember Noel Gallagher. I think he was talking to some kind of journalist, and the journalist was saying like when Man City play Man United, like it's chaos, like it's like chaos on the streets, and he went, "Yeah, it's brilliant, isn't it?" That's the culture, I guess.
Yeah,
but mind you,
yeah, exactly.
I'm a Chelsea fan, and we have our fair share of hooligans, so we'll match you there. So don't worry about that. But anyway, back to the Morrissey article.
Football hooligan champion. Fucking if football team sends their best football hooligan fight to the death, one supreme reigning football hooligan, they get a weekend offender shirt in gold for them.
Am I hearing you saying that you're endorsing a gladiator-style arena, but it's just football hooligans?
Oh, totally.
I'd actually be fine with
that. We should bring back like death matches like in the Roman times where you just get two men to just fight to the death and then you give them a good old fucking thumbs up or down.
We should like once a month or like once a week have like a special show where it's like 5 football hooligans versus like 20 progressives or something. See who wins.
Yeah. Okay, so let's get back to this bloody Morrissey article because we're going way off track now. So, Richard, you actually read the Morrissey article. So, what did you make of it?
Someone read the Morrissey article?
Yes.
Yeah, it's what I expected. I expected Morrissey to double down. I expected him. It was the answers that I expected him to give. I didn't think he would back down. I thought he would say, free speech. He would talk about the hard left. And it all stems from the badge, from him wearing the badge, and it just triggered so many people. So I think he's right. I think he's got a point, and I think we are seeing a gradual takeover, sort of by further left elements and more politically correct elements in the media, there are. It's almost like the corporations are sort of moral arbiters of what is good and isn't good, and I think that might change depending on what happens with Senator Hawley in the States proposing legislation. But obviously that's a total tangent. But yeah, I mean, I think. He said what I expected him to say. He doubled down. He talked about free speech. He talked about halal, but he's always been opposed to the slaughter of all animals anyway. So
he's a vegan, isn't he? I believe.
Yeah, he is. And I was speaking to some vegan activists. I think it's Anonymous for Animals. The guys that wear the masks and they turn up and they put
the cow masks.
They must be well funded because they turn up with the really professional staging and the videos and start playing the animal slaughter live. So everyone can see the animal slaughter. And I was talking to them and I was saying, do you specifically oppose halal, more than you oppose more humane slaughter? And they was like, no, it's all the same. And I was like, yeah, but surely there are gradients to your moral evils, what you consider to be a moral evil. So for Morrissey, he obviously sees that, it's he must believe that as a vegan, he probably believes that killing or any animal slaughter is is a moral evil. But he goes one step further, and at least is willing to intellectualize the fact that more pain and more suffering on the animal's part is more of a moral evil than a quick death. So yeah, he's got some interesting stances, but it's exactly what I expected him to say. Like he just doubled down. I didn't think he'd back down. He's not in a position where he needs to really. The guy, he's not worrying about a paycheck. He's not worrying about losing his job. He doesn't need to kowtow out to the media, so he can just take a principled stance and say, no, this is what I believe, and tough.
Is it fair to say that Morrissey is basically old school Labour, like from the 70s? Because this sounds like some sort of Tony Benn kind of stance on all these sort of issues. He's not that fond of immigration and halal, slaughter, free speech. These are things which Labour used to care about. So
yeah, I mean, Labour are a pro-immigration party and sort of pro-open borders, or just much more border liberal than Labour of the past. So I think there is definitely a space there for the working class vote. I see the working class vote as a primary point for UKIP to pick up. Those voting demographics, definitely, especially like I say in the north where the old Labour heartlands are, because the gel. I mean the Labour view from the 70s is probably a viewpoint that you could say, well, all the 50-year-old Labour voters were 20 and voting for him. These people are still relevant, so that viewpoint is still relevant to a significant portion of the demographic, of your voting bloc. So potentially, yeah, I think UKIP will have a revival in the north. At least that's what I hope, anyway.
Yeah, maybe not in Scotland though, because they're a bit cucked up there. No. Let's face it.
Yeah, no, it's SNP, and I hope eventually that the Scottish population will see that they are the complete wrong party. And it's funny, like Nicola Sturgeon has been directly quoted saying she wants to she wishes the Scottish Nationalist Party wasn't called the Scottish Nationalist Party because of the negative connotations of being a nationalist. So if your own leader is saying that she doesn't like the connotations of being nationalist about a nationalist party, then
that is bizarre, because the SNP are the most nationalist party in the UK, aside from maybe the BNP, who are a bit extreme.
But their policies are very anti-nationalist. I mean, they're pro open borders, pro mass immigration. They want. They keep saying how they're Scottish, but then they try with all their heart and might to make things less pure Scottish. Like if you're that hard Scottish, you'd be like no immigrants, no borders, blah. You know what I mean? You get where I'm coming from, which I don't agree. There should always be some form of immigration. I do understand that, especially in the cities, there will be more cultures, but they seem to want to diversify the wee stupid offshoots. I don't want to say stupid, but you know what I mean? Like Bute. Who goes to Bute, Skye, all those weird bits. They want to diversify them, which are very traditionally Scottish. You know what I mean? So it's just the SNP. As much as they say they're a nationalist party, they are the opposite of a nationalist party. They are very much so. They're just leftist shite bags.
Yeah. I mean, listening to what you're saying, it sounds like what the SNP want to do is essentially do what the Conservatives and Labour are doing down here, but they want control over it themselves to do it up in Scotland. But they want to be in charge doing it. It's essentially what I'm hearing.
Yeah, they're just trying to. Well, obviously with the independence thing as well, which I voted no for on several occasions. Well, not several occasions, but I've always stated throughout the entire time I've been no, and I voted in the referendum no. They just want to take Scotland out of Britain, make it part of the EU, and then dilute it till it's no longer Scotland. I don't know, how is that nationalist? But that
isn't part of it. Isn't part of it just trying to get away from Tory England and basically just have more of the Scottish viewpoint instituted into their parliament?
I mean, yes, but even if we did escape Tory England, what we'd end up doing is falling into what would be very much almost closer to a Labour-esque kind of Scotland. It would be the SNP. The SNP and Labour agree on a lot of points. So we would end up being very left-wing and then falling into some quasi-socialist state where everything's...
Yeah, and they love that.
by just an elite...
If Scotland leaves and turns
Yeah, I
socialist,
don't
then
know why. Considering
Yeah, go on. What were you going to say, Richard?
if Scotland leaves and turns socialist, then I think we should invade
I guarantee you.
again.
Again.
That's not official
No, I
UKIP policy, by the way.
I guarantee you, if Scotland left the UK, we would 100% become a socialist state without a shadow of doubt in
It
my
wouldn't
heart.
surprise me because doesn't
Led
Scotland
by
have like a real
Nicola,
issue
who
with
looks like she was a
an
15-year-old
uncontrolled
football
deficit?
player.
To my knowledge, I could be wrong on that, but
UKIP policy could be to liberate
It's not
Scotland.
right.
Not invade, just liberate. If you turn socialist, we'll liberate you. Yeah, we don't need to invade, we just liberate.
Liberate.
So the only thing stopping Scotland from becoming a degenerate socialist state is England, essentially.
Oh, totally. Well, not so much England, the Union. We like Wales as well. Wales might be your little dog that keeps you, but we like Wales and we like Ireland. The Northern Irish pubs are pretty fit.
Oh, I fucking love Northern Ireland, man. That's the home of Ian Paisley. He's my absolute hero.
one thing I did want to ask, since we do actually have a Scottish person here, and usually when we talk, we have our guests on, they're not usually from Scotland. One thing I did want to know, because I want to inside track on this, what do you think it would take? Like, even if it's like over a long period of time, what do you think it would take to eventually get rid of the SNP and to overthrow them? Not necessarily for UKIP to win, but to just get rid of the SNP. What do you think it would take?
It would need to be a whole new party. It would need to be a completely new. None of the existing parties would come in to take rid of the SNP because the SNP already use their own kind of propaganda to further say how amazing they are. So they've got the kind of delusion of kind of grandeur within the Scottish public, and the Scottish public already have a sour taste with the Tories, Labour, UKIP, all the other kind of, even I think they just have such a sour taste in their mouth from all the other parties. So it would take a completely new party to appear out of nowhere. But then the only thing is about that new party is where would it take its policies from, because a lot of our political spectrum is covered. So it's definitely going to be an uphill struggle. The only thing that you can kind of hope for is the SNP will eventually fizzle out and die as a party, and then another party come in. I think we should go full ANCAP, as we're all full aware. Scottish Libertarians, they should definitely make some sort of move here, but hey ho, there's not enough strength in Scottish Libertarianism, because a lot of our students just think, give me things for free and that's it. So hey ho, what can you do about it? But yeah, 100%. The only thing that will get rid of the SNP is definitely a fresh new party.
I think it would have to be a combination of. It would have to be another kind of nationalist party, because as much I think for Scotland, it's too important for Scotland to kind of not necessarily concede, but kind of accept, just being a normal member of the UK. It still needs to hold on to that very firm nationalist identity. So I think it would have to be a mix between a strong nationalist party, but one that kind of more fits into the UKIP narrative. So freedom of speech, fairness, and all of it. It would need to be a blend of the two, and maybe
a libertarian nationalist.
The Scottish Libertarians. That's what I'm saying. The Scottish Libertarians.
Yeah,
that's exactly. I mean, you'll see they hosted a lot of support for what's his name, Marcus Meacham, Count Dankula, who my mum has met on the train down to London. Funnily enough. It was she sat across from him, and they started speaking, and they went, "Oh, I'm the Nazi pug guy." And Mum went, "My son will know you." And she's got pictures of her like that with them. It's quite a beautiful thing. It's like a Renaissance painting. But the Scottish Libertarians are the only kind of party I see that fit that kind of bill, but they just don't have enough momentum behind them. Which that's what I'm saying. They're a great party. And I do agree with them on a lot of things, but again, no discredit to them, but I just don't think they've got enough momentum. I don't think enough people in Scotland are aware of them.
How big are they as a party?
In Scotland care about freedom of speech to a certain degree.
Not very.
Not very. I don't like to, as I'm saying, I don't like to discredit a party that I agree with because they'll probably headhunt me because I know one of the MSPs are in Kilmarnock, which is like 5 minute drive from me. So please don't egg my house, whoever you may be. But I don't. They're not. I don't even think they're in the balloting for most things. You know what I mean?
Okay, so going back to UKIP, where do we need to put in the groundwork then? You know, I've heard a lot of talk of, you know, we can win these ex-Labour voters up north and the working class vote and stuff like that. What do we need to do to start that momentum going and build that movement? Richard?
Well, I think Ben Walker's actually talked quite a lot about the grassroots and rebuilding the grassroots. And I think that's the way we need to go. Rebuild the local branches, build from the ground up, go for getting local councillors elected, you know, and start to really build out the infrastructure again. Because a lot of the parties, obviously, a lot of the branches, obviously disappeared after the vote because everybody assumed, you know, that it was one. I wasn't a UKIP member at the time. I obviously voted leave, but wasn't political, wasn't really interested in politics. Only over the last year or two that I've really started to get involved. So I think what we need to do, get the local branches built up, get the platform set up, get the social media accounts set up, use templates on domains for getting regional websites set up for people to organise events. You talked about groups, get into branch communication networks set up, so different regions that are near each other. If you're in a ward and you're next to another ward and there's something happening there's no reason why branches can't help each other out and really utilise local manpower. I think that's where we need to focus and reinvest some of the money that goes centrally back into the branches. There used to be policies where when the branches got somebody signed up, they'd see I think it was 50% or so, such a percent of the funds go back into the local branch. Something like that would be a great idea. Incentivise local branches into getting new members. They can grow. They get more money. That allows the finances to grow. They can start getting UKIP merchandise, badges, leaflets. Then start putting stalls out. You know, just becoming visible and building out from the ground up. That's the way to do it.
Well, it used to be the case actually, where if you were a branch, obviously if you signed up on the UKIP website, the money would just go straight to the party, all the money. But if the branch signed up members just in person, I think half of the money would actually go to the branch. But they stopped doing that at some point, and now basically all the money just goes straight to the head office. So yeah, maybe like you say, maybe more of that membership money should go to the branches. Then we can, you know, use that to good effect in local campaigning.
Yeah, I mean, I think the decision to spend a significant amount of money on the leaflet on the European elections, in retrospect, I think that was a mistake. I think that money would have been far better spent back into the local branches, knowing that the European elections were going to be a problem for us. Knowing we're going to shed votes to Brexit Party, to weather that storm, put the money back into the branches and keep building from the ground up. I mean, obviously, there's nothing we can do about that now, but I think that's definitely the way forward.
Speaking of leaflets, did anybody, when Gerard had procured those, I think I've forgotten how many million leaflets it was, but they want to be sent to every household in the UK. Did anybody actually get this? Because I didn't. Or did they just not send them out to UKIP members?
Which leaflet are you on about?
You know, before the EU election, Gerard Batten said that he spent however much money.
Oh yeah, I got one of the leaflets. Did you not?
No, I never got one.
Well, there were rumours actually that Royal Mail, certain employees were not actually delivering these leaflets because there were some far left groups which were applauding Royal Mail for not delivering all the UKIP leaflets. So it doesn't surprise me if a fair bit of that went on.
That would explain. But I'm surprised though, because I like my post. My postman, he's been going to my house like ever since I was a kid. Now, we'll good reputation for him. He's never come across as anybody who would do that. So I don't know. That's unfortunate to hear.
Well, maybe it was at the sorting office. It might not be the local postman Pat. You know.
Yeah. Oh well.
But,
Yeah, it was 640,000. I think the leaflets cost, which I think would have definitely been better off going straight back into the branches and helping the branches build out.
Yeah. Well, another thing which UKIP has sometimes done is they'll have like a team of people, and they'll get this team to go around reviving all these branches and putting structures in place. So,
Well,
yeah.
I think it's, as I said before the stream started, like I was talking to Callum, the guy who works for Sargon, that, and because he was talking about trying to get the Reading branch back up, and my branch chairman is the county chairman, like for all of UKIP over that whole my area and that, and we're trying to get Reading branch back up and going and that. So it is happening, and that it's going to take time because not everybody. Because what I found in my branch is that we'll have plenty of members in that, but not all of them want to be active, and I think some of them are a bit afraid of the whole stigma around UKIP because of the media and that. So it's going to be a challenge getting branches back up and running again.
We have 5 branches now in our region that are active and talking to each other, so it's pretty good.
How many members do you have in your branch, Richard?
It's 120 something, I think, but we regularly get we get a dozen people turn up.
A dozen people. Yeah. That's still not too bad.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
Yeah. So what's the general discussion actually in Doncaster branch? What do you guys talk about?
We talk about we've recently it's been month to month. It's just been whatever's been happening because obviously the political climate's so turbulent, so everything changes month to month. So we've been obviously talking about a lot of local issues. Talk about political correctness, free speech, changing membership. We've been getting quite a lot of new people just turn up month by month, so it's been getting them introduced to the party as well. So it does depend, but the core issues always come through. The core issues in Doncaster, the problems with drugs we talk about. We've had a lot of problems with traffic, with traffic cones. The lit traffic cones in the centre of the road just not being lit. Down a number of roads, so that they were brought up. So yeah, there's a lot of things that are specific to Doncaster and things that we want to do specifically in Doncaster. We're trying to get organised in terms of doing a lot of work in the community, clean-ups and that sort of thing. So and a lot of the other local branches, they organise things like there's a big event going on in Hull. Sorry, not in Hull, in Bridlington, and that's at the end of this month on Saturday the 27th of July, and that's an overnight camping, and it's a Patriots Day. There's going to be a load of stalls, some bouncy castles. It's going to be really kid friendly. You can pay, you get a wristband, you can camp out overnight. So just to plug that, if anybody wants to go up to Bridlington for the day at the end of the month. So yeah, I mean, there's a lot of events. We're just trying to get more and more organised, and a lot of it at the moment is putting the infrastructure back in place, putting the communication structures between the officers and the members back in place, letting people know what we're about, what we're doing. So yeah, I mean, we are going strength to strength, and if we keep going as we are, I think our membership will continue to grow, and as a branch and as a region, we're going to keep getting stronger and stronger.
Yeah, so I was going to ask, like, what do you do to reach out to people? But it sounds like you're doing a pretty good job of that at the moment.
Yeah, I mean, we've got 2,300 followers on Facebook. Our Facebook is quite lively. We've got quite a lot of followers, and we post on there. We speak to friends. We advertise. We get the membership letters come through from an office as well, and we try and plug out to that. Send emails out. Send various bits out, and just keep the members informed and keep them up to date. Send the minutes out from the meetings. That's always good for people to know what's been talked about. So yeah, it's just about communicating with our members and just trying to grow and get the big thing is getting people on board who will be active. Will get out, will leaflet, will set stalls up, will do things for the party. Everybody can vote, but getting activists on board is probably a little bit more important.
Yeah, that's the same thing that my branch is dealing with, where we got decent amount of members, but it's trying to get them to be active and to put themselves forward for the good causes and that.
Well, people have busy lives, don't they? So it's not always easy.
Oh yeah, we can't expect too much from people, but you read that like for some small things, it doesn't take too much. Like sometimes we'll do things during the week in my branch, or sometimes it'll be on the weekend if my branch chairman wants to set up a stall and that. And I'd love to help out more, but obviously my work schedule, I'm quite busy on the weekend, so unfortunately I can't help. But if it's like stuff during the week, then I'm always willing to put myself forward to help out in that.
And how do you advertise, Richard, in your branch?
Advertise for just new members?
Oh, just generally, yeah.
Yeah, just mainly on social media. We don't really do much leafleting or anything at the moment. Not around, not unless there's some sort of election or something going on. But there were no locals here, and there won't be until 2021 unless there's a general election. So the last one was 2017. So we had no locals to campaign in. So we've not been as active as we needed to be because there was just nothing to do. There was no votes in our area. There was nothing really for us to campaign on.
I actually think leafleting is becoming a more redundant method of canvassing these days. I was speaking to Piers Walcott, the interim leader, and he was talking about the importance of knocking on doors and things like that. Because I leafleted the hell out of my area, and it didn't really bring a lot of returns, I wouldn't say. Yeah.
I think because for me, it's less about what's on the paper and more about just showing that you're present in the area. So as long as like there's a reminder in somebody's home that like, hey, we're about. And I think that's the most you're going to get from leafleting. But in terms of like, trying to put forward a message like on the leaflet, it's kind of, for me, from what I've observed, it's more of a 50-50 in that chance. But like I say, it's about making your presence known. That like we're in the area, we're around. So if you want to vote for us, you will be able to, or if you want to come to a branch, you can be able to. And I think that's something. I think that'd probably be the best thing to do if we do leafleting in the future. Like not doing it at elections, but like doing it just like different times of the year. Make it big and bold on the leaflet. Say, we have a branch. Come down, have a chat with us. You don't have to join. You don't have to be a member. Just come chat, see what we're about and that. And just try to get people more involved like that. Like make it just like an evening activity, not necessarily like an exclusive club sort of thing.
Yeah. What do you have to say about that, Richard?
Yeah, I mean, you try and push. Obviously, friends and family is always good. Friends of friends and people that you know. If you can bring more local people in, that's always great. We always push our Facebook accounts and we always push our social media. Try and get as many eyes on stuff. In terms of the leafleting, it's not something I'd ever do personally, just because I could reach more eyes just sat on my laptop than I can. Sweating in the sun delivering leaflets. I mean, but there is an argument. It is different eyes because you are going to reach a different demographic than you're going to reach on the internet. So you're always going to reach people that you wouldn't otherwise reach, and those people do vote. So that they do count. So I think you have to look at whenever you're advertising for anything, you have to look at a nice holistic approach. Make sure you really cover all bases. So I would probably use a composite method of both physical leafleting and also digital. What is essentially digital leafleting is just making Facebook posts and spreading them out. We had a post the other day. It had nearly 9,000 eyes, 9,000 views. So it reaches a lot of people, and obviously a lot of those are outside of Doncaster. And you will get followers then from the other regions, and it's important if you can get local branches to go to each other's meetings as well and just communicate between themselves. And that's something we're really working on at the moment is getting the branch officers around all the different branches and around the different regions and meeting all the teams so that you can build a really solid group of people and a solid group of activists that can start to put together increasingly complex and decent events and really sort of push the boundaries in what you can achieve as a branch.
Yeah. Okay, well, the one last thing I thought we'd talk about, since we are having a UKIP leadership election soon, is the UKIP leadership election. So where are you on the whole Gerard Batten, Mike Hookham? Who are you backing in this next leadership election, Richard?
Not Mike Hookham.
No.
No.
But he's a northerner, surely that.
No. Mike Hookham is not popular with our members or any of the Kippers that I know. So no, it won't be Mike Hookham. Ben Walker does have a lot of support up here. He has a lot of. I think people like the grassroots approach. The idea of putting money back straight into the branches. A lot of the northern branches are crying out for that. They want some investment back in terms of from the south, from the London infrastructure essentially, and the party mechanisms. So Ben does talk to a lot of people here. But I'd say overall, a lot of people are big fans of Gerard Batten. I think he's ultimately the front runner, and I'd be very surprised if it isn't Gerard. I did personally like Richard Brain. And I believe that Richard stood down in order to support Gerard. So I think I expect, and I would like to see a Gerard leadership, but I would really like to see some of the policies and ideas and platforms that Ben Walker talks about really put into action. I think a combination of Batten's tenacity and leadership and bringing us to where we are, but with a refocus and a pivot towards the north and re-strengthening and re-securing and rejuvenating all of the northern branches and all of the branches really, but specifically giving some attention to the heartlands in the north where I think we can do really well. So yeah, that's where I stand, and those are the three that I'm only willing to talk about: Gareth Bennett and
Helena
Windsor. Yeah, I don't think they're anywhere close. So I think the real competition will be between Batten and Walker.
Although saying that, I've seen a lot of online polls that actually have Hookham scoring second, quite close to Batten. But who knows at this point? It's so up in the air. Apart from the fact that we know Batten's obviously going to do well. As for who's going to challenge him most, Walker or Hookham, I'm not actually too sure. I wouldn't be surprised if Hookham actually did better than people expected.
If Batten does take the leadership, I think he needs to be decisive on the Tommy Robinson issue. I think he needs to do something quickly with that, one way or the other. Put it to the party membership if necessary, as the NEC originally discussed. But to be honest, I think it's almost going to become a non-issue because Tommy's most likely going to join for Britain at some point or push his own political party. So I think it's probably not likely to be an issue for long. But my personal take is that although I do have some support and I do have some sympathy for Tommy's positions, I personally wouldn't change the constitution or not change the constitution. I wouldn't enact the existing waiver present in the constitution because I think the rule's there for a reason, and I think it does a lot to protect us as a party. And even given my support, as I say, for Tommy's positions and sympathy for his positions, I don't think it would benefit us to do that.
Well, I actually followed Tommy Robinson on Telegram, which is one of the few bits of social media he's not banned from, and he did actually praise Gerard for standing as leader, and so I wouldn't be so sure that he will join, something like For Britain. And I think, like you said, mentioned before, the best way of Gerard handling this is to just put it to the members, in my opinion, because there's clearly a big faction that really want to see this happen. So it's like me. I personally do want Tommy to join. But if it went to a vote to members and the members voted no, I would never talk about it again. But the fact is just, there's clearly a big movement for him to join. So give the members a choice. If they reject it, fine. If he joins, then, well, brilliant for me. But
that would be my view as well, essentially. If you know, as I say, I do have a lot of sympathy for Tommy. I do follow him. I don't use Telegram, but I did used to follow him on Facebook. And I, you know, if he did join, the membership voted for him to join, it wouldn't be a problem for me whatsoever. And I think most people or most members within the party now are probably that way inclined. You know, I think most members would be more than happy for him to join. My personal take is more to do with the constitutionality of it rather than the person. It's more to do with the reason that we put the rule in place, and essentially it doesn't matter that it's Tommy or somebody else. It wouldn't matter who it would be. I would still probably take the same stance that the rule, that the reason that rule stands in the Constitution is the reason it stands, and I'd leave it there. But that's just my take.
I do get the rule. However, I would probably not put the English Defence League in one of those categories, because I don't think the English Defence League ever showed any sort of sign of racism or anything like that. I mean, they had bloody Sikh and Jewish divisions of the EDL.
Yeah.
But, it's not like BNP, put it that way.
And the problem is as well that the EDL, while Tommy was in the EDL, wasn't designated. So at the time, you know, it wasn't prescribed as a group. So while he was in it, so it's sort of, I can see the arguments for both. And as I say, I've got absolutely no problems with what Tommy says. I just think that it could be a potential problem. It may not be. You know, it may work out as a net gain in terms of membership and support and coverage, or it may not.
I think the best way to handle Tommy going forward, I think you both highlighted it perfectly. I think we just need to have the vote and just get it out and done with. Like, because even if, like, I'm with Damien. Like, if it comes out and the membership says no, fine, end of story. You know, no need to ever talk about it again. But in terms of, like, I think some of the reasons why people are concerned about Tommy joining is not necessarily. I don't think people really have an issue with what he says. It's just the media portrayal of him, and they're concerned about optics and that. And, you know, with politics, optics is always going to be a thing. You have to take that into account with everything. But if I was ever, and I think Gerard's starting to feel the same way, if he ever gets to an interview and Tommy Robson inevitably comes up for whatever reason, just say it's not an issue. I mean, it's what I would do.
I never understand why the media focus so much on Tommy when they're speaking to Gerard, because Gerard has said things that are probably more spicy than Tommy's ever said.
The reason being, as I understand it, it's literally just a way to jab at UKIP. It's because the image of Tommy Robinson, even if people don't really believe it anymore, like there are still some that do, and they will always use that as to, like, just jab us with it, even if it's complete BS. And it's because they just don't like us. You know, they're concerned with us. Like, the things that we propose and things that we stand by threaten their little hegemony of power. Or I'm not even sure if that's the right word for it, but their little dominance over their society with their media influence and that. And the fact that UKIP would absolutely challenge that, you know, not saying we would, like, restrict, you know, journalism in any way like that, but, like, we would call it out and say, look, you're talking BS, and I cut it out. So a bit like how Trump does in the US, like ever since Trump went on the march against fake news and that, the ones like CNN, the ones that actually push it out the most, they've been suffering massively. They've been hemorrhaging viewers ever since Trump went on his, like, fake news march. And I think they realized that UKIP would probably do the same thing if we had the chance to do it. So I think that's half the reason why they attack us so much, is because they're afraid of what we stand for.
Carl is great on the interviews. He's really, really solid.
Yeah.
I think, you know, the interview with Victoria Derbyshire was
it's a brilliant interview. Absolutely destroyed her.
And he's doing good work in the Southwest. I know he's just done some things in Torquay at the moment. I do believe he's actually planning to go to Birmingham, and he's going to speak to the Muslims who are campaigning against the the gay lessons in school.
Yeah.
So that's
Oh,
a
it's gonna be a
interesting.
spicy one.
Yeah.
Well, it's interesting because they're having quite a lot of problems there. Obviously, you've had Angela Eagle give a speech in the House of Commons recently, and Jess Phillips has been confronted on the streets by activists, saying, why will you not support us? And apparently, there are now flyers going up around Birmingham talking about, let's deselect Jess Phillips because she doesn't support our religious rights as a community. So I think that's going to be very interesting to see how all that plays out over the next couple of months.
It's quite beautiful to watch because it's exactly what the progressives deserve. You pander to identity politics, and it will inevitably come back and bite you in the ass. Because you can appeal to small minorities, and I'd be like, "Oh, we're here for you. We're here to defend you." But it doesn't mean that minorities are going to get along with each other. And when they start conflict and they start fighting with each other, what are you going to do? You can't pick a side, can you? You're just stuffed.
Well, they are picking a side. It's clear who's winning the intersectional Olympics. I mean,
yeah.
They picked Marxism over Islam this time. It looks. But,
it's one step in the right direction, I suppose. I don't like either. I'm not overly fond of either of them, but one lesser evil, I suppose.
Well, this is the funny thing about the left wing is that they've aligned themselves a lot with Islam. Islam is the most conservative ideology in the world.
Oh yeah, it makes medieval Christianity look tame.
Yeah, exactly. So.
The adherents are mostly brown, so that makes the left feel much better.
Yeah, well, that's why they're so wedded to them. It's just because of the color of their skin, nothing else really. But it's kind of like that
minority vote.
It's kind of like that Simpsons meme all the time, where they got the two monkeys fighting, and then everyone just watching them. Like, yeah, go on, go for it. That's what we're doing with the left right now. Go on, stab each other.
Preferably less stabbing, but yes, I understand the metaphor.
Yeah,
symbolism's pretty bang on.
I'll tell you. Go on. You speak.
Did somebody say that 89% of Young Independence members are dads? Is that a true stat?
Dads? What dads?
Yeah, dads, fathers.
Oh, dads. Sorry, I thought you said DATS.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
89% of UKIP members.
Young Independence members.
It's nice for somebody else to get interrupted. It's not me.
And there's proof that he's a dad right there.
But I think that was just somebody said as a passing glance. I don't know if that's actually true, is it? That 89% of YI are dads?
No, that's definitely not true.
Yeah, I don't think
I've seen way too many. I was just saying that's definitely not true, Richard, because I've seen many young boys who I'm sure do not have kids in YI.
I'd be amazed if Jacob has a kid.
Yeah, we do have. You're a member of YI, aren't you, Richard?
No, I'm too old.
Not a member of YI. Oh, you're
Too old.
Too old. Okay. Well, we do have one. We have one member of YI, which I was hoping we were going to get on tonight, Tony. And I believe he's the only person in YI who has more than one kid. He has 2 kids, so we should be worshipping this guy.
He's a man's man. He is.
I've got two daughters.
Oh, there you go. Well, you really need 3 though, just to go above the population replacement rate.
Yeah, but as long as you have 2 girls, that's okay.
Oh yeah. Well, yeah. You've basically got to.
Girls are extra points
from that. So Gerard's leadership in general. You talked about how we shouldn't bow down to political correctness and how we should speak about anything. Surely isn't that the appeal of Gerard? He's willing to talk about things like Islam and grooming gangs.
Yeah, absolutely. Gerard is the reason that I joined the party. Really, I really like Gerard. I think he's great. Just says it as it is. I mean, the fact that he stood down, as he said he would. I think he's a principled person, and he comes comes at things from a point of moral certainty, and I think he's just honest, and I think he's got a lot of integrity, and I do see a lot of good qualities in Gerard. So I'm hoping that Gerard does take leadership.
Yeah.
And it'd be good to go on, you speak.
Sorry, I was just going to say, like you were mentioning polls earlier, I think if there was going to be any real, I mean, if we're being brutally honest, like I think if there's any 2-horse race, it's not going to be between Walker and Batten. If we're being honest, like I've seen a lot of polls, like not just in YI, because the one in YI was quite funny, but outside of YI, there was I've seen a lot of polls, and most of them have Gerard on around 80%. Like pretty much every single one of them I've seen. And all the other ones have Ben Walker just a little bit ahead of like Mike Hookham, and then the other two are just kind of like down there. If there's any like 2-horse race between any candidates, it's going to be between Mike Hookham and Walker. Honestly, I just, from what I've seen, I just don't see how. I think people are kidding themselves a bit when they think it's a 2-horse race between Walker and Batten. I mean,
the only thing I'm
changed after the hustings, but from what I'm seeing in the moment, I don't think it's going to be a 2-horse race.
The only thing I'm wary of is because obviously online you're getting more younger members of UKIP. I'm not really sure how the older members are actually going to vote when it comes to this. Have you spoken to any older members and gauged their opinion whatsoever? Because the ones I've spoken to, they're not that fond of Gerard Batten, but then again, I am living in middle class Surrey, so it's not probably the best. What do you call it?
Well, I know what you mean. My branch is similar. They're a little bit hesitant at Batten winning again, and I don't. I suppose I could call them middle class. I mean, I think it's my branch is a mix between middle aged, probably middle and lower class, I'd say. But yeah, they're a bit hesitant on Batten and that. But I haven't heard them express an opinion on any other candidates, so I can't really comment on that regard, at least from my branch. But from what I've seen online, in terms of like what in the comments of the polls and who people are supporting, it's from what I can tell just by looking at the profiles, it's people of all ages. It could be our age, it could be middle age, it could be elderly. And they seem to be, I mean, some of them do come out and they say they're for Hookham or they're for Walker, but most of them, again, are for Batten. And that, so maybe it's just our areas that are a bit hesitant on Batten, but from what I'm seeing online, it looks pro-Batten at the moment. Anything could change after the hustings. Maybe Batten will slip up and they'll make a mistake, and then the polls will switch. And so anything could happen. It's still early days.
But if you had to put your money on it, you would overwhelmingly say Batten, I assume.
Yeah, from like I say, from what I'm seeing at the moment, it looks very much like Batten's just going to cakewalk it.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Interesting. Well, we actually have a debate coming up. It's going to be within the next couple of weeks, I guess, between a pro Ben Walker person and a pro Gerard Batten person. So that should be quite interesting. But the only thing we're waiting for is Gerard Batten to release his policies, which I believe he hasn't quite done yet. So it'll be interesting to see what Gerard comes out with in terms of hard-hitting policies.
Yeah, I'm very much looking forward to that debate. That's going to be fun.
Yeah. Okay, well, I think we should wrap up this stream. It was good getting a different perspective from the north, so break away from that southern-centric vibe that we seem to give off. So, yeah, thanks for joining us. And see you later, guys.
Thanks, guys.
Bye.